Hello and welcome. We are going to start off today's intuitive reading with two amazing energy cards. We've got the Eight of Fire and the Ace of Earth. Now, I have been thinking a lot about this Ace of Earth card. This Ace of Earth card is about building, that we're building something new, but that what we're building is much bigger than what we realize. It can be a lot bigger than what we realize. And this kind of fiery pushed, as in there's momentum building and gathering, and feeling like you're going to be asked to take bigger and bigger strides. You're walking purposefully towards your end goal, but instead of taking the steps one at a time, you're actually going to be asked to take the steps two at a time. So timing, everything is picking up and accelerating. And there is an immense potential for fast growth if you can align with this energy. So what do you need to do to make sure your energy is still aligned, right? Is aligned with that energy. So by the way, this is a collective reading where we're really looking at the big collective energies that are helping us or perhaps blocking us. This is not an individual reading. I do offer those separately from the YouTube channel. I do not like to give individual specific advice on this channel because there's too many different energies watching any one given video. And I really think that would not do you a service, but in knowing what these larger energy patterns are, you can then distill it yourself using your own intuitive power. You can distill it into your own circumstance. So how do we align with this fiery energy pushing us forward? Okay, the Tower, the Ace of Air, and the Magician. So Tower and then double aces, essentially. Tower 1111. Okay. Now this is a really interesting progression because we have the warning, we have the danger here. And the danger is holding on to anything old, holding on to any old beliefs, holding on to any old patterns, holding on to any old toxic people, whether in your thoughts or in your actions. So you could say, well, I've cut this person off, but if you keep thinking about them, that's not energetically cutting someone off. That's actually holding on to them even tighter because you're holding them in the space of your body. Okay, so we've got the warning that we need to really make sure we've made a clean break. And that's what this Ace of Air is helping us do. I really love the imagery on this card. I love how you can see the dragons reflected in her sword, but she's got this protective shield that she's put up which don't allow the dragons to get to her, because this is actually kind of like a prophetic foreseeing kind of card, or foretelling. I'm getting all sorts of other words in my head. This is a foreseeing kind of card that means if you act with enough alacrity, if you act with enough speed, you can head off any disaster. So we've got, again, the warning, we've got you waking up to that, and then we turn around with the Magician to use her power exactly as she needs to use her power. And this is funny, this is a personal message for me. This is a crocus flower, and I was just talking about the crocus this morning. I used to, when I was like 2.5 years old, run out into the garden and look for crocuses because I wanted to see if spring was here yet. And recently I had the name crocus come back into into my awareness in this funny kind of way. Anyway, so this is about making sure that you have heralded the signs, that you have heralded the warnings. If you cut off what you don't need, if you cut off any baggage, if you cut off the old toxicity, if you cut off the old way of thinking that you know isn't right for you, then you will have all of your power at your disposal to grow this enterprise exactly the way you want. So look at this. She's incubating a seed, but the Magician is pointing at it with a ball of energy saying, hey, it's time to grow and bloom, and actually forces or pushes this flower to happen faster. So and I feel like my speech has sped up. Everything is about speed right now. And when you're looking at speed, you really have to be on the ball, but before the ball. In music, I would say you would be on the front side of the beat. You're anticipating rather than kind of holding back and waiting for things to come. When we talk about a lot of fire and air energy, we're talking about masculine energy, which is a little faster. It happens more quickly, perhaps, than the feminine energy, which is a slower time scale. If you think of earth, if you think of water, it's just a little bit slower. So you can also think of the difference between an elephant and a cheetah. A cheetah is more fiery energy, can run faster. An elephant is maybe a little bit slower, but it's powerful in a different way. Now I want to stay on on task here. So this is about making sure that nothing is in your way anymore. And I want to spend a little more time with the Tower. I gave you kind of a broad stroke about what this Tower is about, but let's see if we can get in a little bit more. What is that Tower energy about? Okay, 9 of water, 4 of earth, and Page of water. Okay, this is about you holding on in a way that is blocking your intuitive flow or blocking flow. Okay, this is about you blocking yourself. And what I feel like the Tower is saying is if you continue to block yourself, again, I don't want to alarm anyone, but this is kind of a serious warning here that the ramifications for blocking yourself are going to be big. Either a health thing is going to happen or something where when you're holding something down, the pressure builds and builds and builds and builds, and it has to come out somewhere. And if you don't let this power out, if you don't let this intuitive energy out, if you don't let the flow out, it's going to burst. And it's going to burst in a place that you're holding on the strongest, okay? So if it's a mental thing, if it's your mind that keeps you from the flow, then it's likely you're going to have something happen here. Headache in a small thing, it could be as strong as a stroke. It's something to get your attention. This is not something meant to harm you, but it's something that is saying to you, hey, look, you are blocking yourself. You are blocking the flow that is yours. You are blocking your wishes from coming true. And for a lot of you, this is about the heart's desire, whether it is the desire for a relationship, for someone else, or it is just something that you have wanted so strongly with your heart. This pesky 4 of earth is holding her ground, and she is not allowing this flow to take place. Okay, both of these cards are asking you to open up to what is yours, what is coming to you, what you've asked for. But the 4 of earth is saying, no, no, we're not going to do that. No, I don't want you to have those desires. It's control, possibly. It's also a bit of self-sabotage. It's perhaps also a fear of your own power. And so, for those of you watching this video, because this video is not meant for every single person on this earth, it's only meant for the ones who feel drawn to it. Your power is needed, and your power is needed to be channeled. And your power is needed for a force of positive energy on this earth. And the Tower is really about your warning to yourself. You're stopping yourself from being big, from being great. And no one else is doing it. This is you doing it, okay? So how can you tell? Okay, I'm going to ask for 2 cards because I think that's going to help you. How can you tell when you're in, and how can you tell when you're out? How can you tell when you're aligned with your with your power, and how can you tell when you're blocking it? Okay, in, Elder of Water, out, Five of Air. Okay, Elder of Water means that you are at peace and you are able to take any influence, any energy that is external to you and channel it through you into something more calm. Okay, so if you're reacting, if you've got chaos around you and you're able to stay calm, and because you're able to stay calm, that chaotic energy channels into something just smoother, then you know you're in the right place. When you're in an empathetic frame of mind, when you're willing to look at things from other people's points of view, you know that you're in the right flow. This is all about channel. The message of this card is just channel, channel, channel. Channeling energy. And it doesn't mean being overwhelmed by energy. It doesn't mean being swept away by energy. It means being a steady force for the energy to flow through so that it can be diverted appropriately, so that it can be managed appropriately. Okay? So when you are out of alignment, we've got all sorts of stuff going on. Okay, we've got selfish behavior, we've got speech and ways of acting that are detrimental to other people, and they're also detrimental to yourself. They take from you, they take from other people. And you'll find when you're in this mode and you really look back at your energy, that you're going to see, oh, wait a minute, I'm being selfish here. And you're going to actually see that your selfishness has negative consequences for other people. This card also, this one is focused on the other, right? This card is focused on the self. And when you are focused on the other, in a more, I don't want to say impassive, but when you're focused on the other in a way that where you're at peace because you're feeling okay, you're feeling comfortable with where things are, that's when you can focus on the other. A lot of times we think we're focusing on the other, but really we're focusing on the self. And what I mean by that is you can be paying attention to someone else, but if you're asking yourself questions like, well, how will that affect me? Or if they do this, will I still be okay? Or they did this and now I don't feel so great. That's actually focusing on the self. That's not focused on the other. Or, if I do this for them, then they'll love me. That's actually a selfish thought. So this is about getting yourself out of yourself, essentially. Because, see if I can put this into the words. into words. The limit of the self is constrained by the definition that the ego puts on it. Okay, I take up this much space in the world because this is what my ego tells me I occupy. All right, this is who I am because this is what my ego tells me I can do. But the point is, we are part of something that is much bigger. I may be taking up this much space, but my energy field is much bigger than the physical space I'm occupying right now. And we are all connected to Source, we are all connected to Spirit, and we are all connected to a much bigger energy than what we realize. So when we choose to keep ourselves defined by our ego, we limit the reach that we can have, we limit the power that we can have, and we limit the channeling abilities that we have. So I really think that at the end of all of this is about dropping the self-definition and understanding that what you see in front of you, when you look in the mirror, you're seeing the potential of someone, but you're not seeing the end. And if we do this right, we will never see the end. We will always just see the potential for greater and greater things. We will see more and more potential. Okay, but we will never see the finite end, because the minute we see the finite end, that's the ego taking over. So very, very interesting thing to think about. I'll see. I'm trying to construct a story for you. When I would teach a lot of kids piano, we would start with, or we'd do always a little part of the lesson with improvising, because I think improvising is great. It gets the creativity going. It makes them feel like they can there's no mistakes in improvising. So there's a freedom that happens. And also, from a teaching point of view, they discover concepts that I might want to teach them about, 3 weeks down the line, but they'll discover it themselves, which just makes teaching a bit easier. But the thing is if I were to say to a kid, okay, we're going to improvise now. Improvising's really hard. And you have to follow this, and this, and this, and this. And that's how we're going to improvise together. If the kid has never done this, and they're of a certain disposition, they might say, well, that improvising is too hard. There's no way I can do it. But actually, this is not the right way to present this to you. Let me back up again. So like I was saying before, when they're improvising, they might discover something really advanced that they don't really know how to do, or they don't know that they're doing. If I were to tell them before we improvise that, you're gonna do something, or you're gonna have to do something that's really too advanced for you, and I don't know if you'll be able to do it, they wouldn't even try, right? But because they had the space to explore without any definition or limits put on them, they discover this really advanced concept for themselves. And that's, I feel, what soul and spirit are saying to us. You can't think of yourself as a finite being. You can't think of yourself as, okay, I'm a Taurus with this rising and this planet and this, and therefore I am this way. You can't think of yourself in finite terms, or I'm only good at this, or I'm not good at that, or this is my thing, or this isn't my thing. All we know is that we have potential right now. And the more we can let go of any of that limit that we're trying to place on ourselves, the more power we're going to find. And, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling this thought that I'm having a hard time putting into words, that a lot of the previous ways of defining ourselves are just not going to work anymore in the dimension that we're shifting into. Astrology, numerology, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, none of those personality definers are going to be human design even. None of those are going to be totally complete. None of those are going to be totally descriptive enough, because we're going into a new world where we almost need like a new way of defining ourselves. But maybe the new way of defining ourselves is not to define ourselves at all. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. As I mentioned earlier, this was not an individual reading, but if you are interested in getting some one-on-one spiritual guidance, or any other insight, or if you have any questions about this journey and looking for a mentor, I do offer all of that. You can connect with me through my website, soulguidancewithadriana.com. The link's in the description below. And I will look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good one.